Very welcome back to Sky News. That breaking news coming in the last couple of hours about the UK government's decision to increase defence spending to 2.5%, I should say, by 2027. Let's get more with Michael Clarke, our defence and security analyst, who is here in the studio with me. Michael, just first of all, your reaction to that interview with Pat McFadden. To be fair to the government, there is a defence review taking place, isn't there? So we haven't got all the detail, but a little bit of the sense of direction of where this money might be spent.
Yeah, it's coming out now, and he used those phrases, transformation. We've got to think differently. Very interesting. He said, we will spend this money differently to if we were doing this 5 or 8 years ago. Because, you know, defence 5 or 8 years ago was a different business to the way it is now, because it's no secret. This defence review, I'm sure, is trying to look at the 2030s, 2040s, and what they're trying to do is to leap into the 2030s quite quickly. We haven't got the luxury of big forces that can change slowly. We've got small forces. They've got to try to transform themselves more or less in one go. And that means working from the bottom up, incremental change. And I think he was very, very as clear as he can be about that. We don't know when the SDR, the Strategic Defence Review, will appear, but it's going to be quite soon. And obviously this financial settlement must be part of that thinking. And my own guess is that the SDR wouldn't make any sense without this increase to 2.5%, which is, you know, another 13.5 billion from 2027 in cash terms.
And what, I mean, are we talking about, because there's been a lot of reflection on the size of the army, for example, Michael, hasn't there, in the last, decade or so, about how it's decreased. And this comes at a time in which Keir Starmer is talking about potentially putting troops on the ground in Ukraine. Are we talking about an increase, a substantial increase, in the size of our physical armed forces?
I doubt it at the moment. I mean, the army's 72,000. It's due to go down to 70, which is very small. They may take it up a little bit. I don't think we're talking about a much bigger army. If you're talking about an army that was capable of doing all the things the government really wanted to do, you'd be going back to an army of, 110,000, something like that. And bear in mind, it used to be, at the end of the Cold War, it was 180,000, of whom 60,000, 55,000 were the British Army of the Rhine, just sitting in Germany. But we are where we are, 70-odd thousand. The idea, if you look at the head of the army, Rolly Walker, I mean, he's the new Chief of the General Staff, he says, we have got to be prepared for a big event in 2027, 2028. We can't wait till the 2030s. We don't know what that big event might be, but a strategic challenge of a war-fighting sort. That's the sort of thing he talks about. And he says, we've got to be able to make a brigade, which is a basic unit of about 5,000 troops. We've got to double its combat power by 2027 and treble it by 2030 without an increase in people.
Okay.
That's a good trick if you can do it. And so that's what they're doing. They're working on increasing the lethality, which is all about information, computing, getting this kill cycle, as they call it, the kill web, up and running, so that a smaller number of people can actually be very lethal with modern weapons. And, there are some very good weapons out there. There are laser guns now where it's basically £5 a shot. Literally £5 a shot, even more cheap than that in some cases. There's only a certain number of things, contrary to James Bond films, there's only a certain number of things you can use a laser weapon for.
Yeah.
But when you can use it, they're very, very good, and they're extremely cheap.
OK, Michael, for the time being, on that note, thank you very much indeed.